You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 4 horsemen of the beer apocalypse over here. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Chop Brew. I am Chip Walton. I am here with the couple of guys you know.
Bryon Adams.
Leaf Nielsen.
And one that you might not, but you about to.
Chuck Gosnell.
Chuck just swept the American Wild Ale category at the Minnesota Mashout. So he was nice enough upon being bestowed with all the blingage to come bring the beers that did this epic sweep. So first and foremost, the category kind of entails what? Before we even talk about what you have, what could go into this category?
So American Wild is Brett fermented beers, mixed fermentation beers, and then what they call wild specialty, which would be anything with fruit, anything with oak, anything that's a combination of category A, category B.
Okay.
In American Wild. So
what do you have for us?
I actually have 3 specialty beers. That's the great thing about the Mashout is you can enter more than one of the same category beer in a particular competition as long as they are distinct. I think these look pretty distinct.
Yeah, they look distinct.
So what we have is a golden sour that has some apricot. We have a kind of a red Flanders loosely inspired beer that has blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. And then we have a stronger, really dark sour with just a bit of raspberry in it.
Cool, let's dig in. So this is the 3rd place, bronze medal winner.
Yep.
Oh, cheers, but not
Cheers. I didn't lick it yet.
Clinky.
I didn't lick it.
Clinky.
Yeah.
All the way down. So this beer is a very popular recipe that you can find readily available. Are we allowed to mention other Chop and Brew related podcasts?
Yeah.
Because this is a recipe from the Sour Hour. Jay Goodwin of the Rare Barrel. This is their sour gold recipe.
Wow.
That is mostly pills. It's got some wheat. It's got some spelt, and those are the things that kind of leave a little bit of residual sweetness that keep that acid from really, really punching you in the face. And then what I did with this is kind of a mead-inspired method as far as the fruit goes, where I put apricot in about a month before I wanted the beer to be finished, and I let it completely and totally re-ferment out. And then about 2 or 3 weeks before I packaged it up, I hit it with another batch of apricot puree.
Wow.
Kind of double fruited it so you get some fermented fruit flavor and some nice, fresh, bright, juicy apricot.
I like how you say you use 3 Citra hop pellets.
Yeah, so I really just try and keep the IBUs super low, and you'll notice that in all the beers because 3 Citra hop pellets.
Because IBUs deter lacto, correct? Or,
Yeah, I think
or even other buggy things.
Yeah, lacto and pedio, anything really. Once you get into double digits, you're starting to inhibit the lactobacillus pediococcus. So I really try and keep all of these in that single digit territory. And then actually the red beer that we'll get into in a little bit has like 9-year-old hops that probably have no alpha left in them.
Mm-hmm. Aged like in a garage.
You know, they were found in the basement of Northern Brewer after we cleaned house. We cleaned
sure
house.
that was a hop and not a...
We did find some of that too, but that might have been hops. Might have been hops. But yeah, no, I got a nice bag of old Cascade and a nice bag of old Perlay, and I think they were like 9 and 12 years old respectively, or something like that.
So what do you think the judges, or I guess you've seen the sheets, what do you know that the judges liked about this beer? And what do you like about it?
So the judges liked that it has a little bit of balance. I mean, it's not exactly in balance, but you get the fruity component. It's tart, but not bracing, like it's not going to take the paint off your car. And it you still, apricot's a tough flavor, so it's got a good amount of apricot in it. And I think it scored 38. Actually, all of these scored relatively within 2 or 3 points of each other. So I think this was 37, this was 38, and that was like 40. So they were all kind of just like boom, boom, boom.
Tart and dry. It's funny when you say some of that residual sugar because it's hard to really grasp the concept of sweet even with a beer. It's still like this.
Yeah,
But that's what balances it out, though.
Yeah, and it finished a degree Plato. And some of my early sour beer making, like the beers would finish completely bone dry, like 0, 998. I mean, and you would take a sip of them, and they were just like, I mean, they were literally just like jump out at you. So even having that degree Plato or that degree and a half Plato, that sweetness.
Now, did you stop it once you got to 1006?
No, that's just where it finished out at. Okay. Yeah, and these are all single infusion mash, so mashing that wheat and I think mashing that spelt at that higher temperature leaves a little bit of unfermentable stuff in there.
Have you pulled the pH on any of them?
You know what? I haven't. So I haven't really gotten into pH with my finished beers. I usually check the pH in my mash, and as much as I think pH is a good indicator, I think total acidity is where a lot of folks end up too, and testing TA isn't something that I'm doing either. My guess is that these are all probably in that low to mid threes.
Let's talk about the middle guy. We can kind of go back and forth if we need. So this is a conglomeration of sorts.
Yeah. So this
it's got a delicious nose to it. I don't know if delicious is the right word, but a beautiful nose to it.
It's definitely fruity.
Yeah, and yet at the same time you get a little bit of like almost that the funkiness presents itself as almost like a little bit of savory character.
I'm sad I can't smell.
I smell you.
So sour red with blueberry, blackberry, raspberry.
Yep, and so this is a blend of, gosh, I don't know, I think there's like 6 or 7 different beers in here. But I had a Solera project going for a while, where I just had a carboy and I would take 2 or 3 gallons out and then put 2 or 3 more gallons of beer in. And I had that project going for about a couple of years, and I would put whatever beer I had on hand. So if I had, like I had an English porter that I made with pretty standard porter recipe, yeast 1968. I threw some Brett C at it to kind of give it, a little bit different profile. Some of that ended up in the Solera. The Doppelbock that's in here, I actually added because I needed to free up space in my Kieser, so I needed to get that Doppelbock keg out. The beer was so good. And then the other thing I like about my Flanders beers is, again, like trying to get to that Rodenbach, where Rodenbach's sweet. Like, it has some serious residual gravity left in it. And my Doppelbock finished at like 1024, 1028. And so I put some of that in there because I knew the fruit was going to water it back down. So again, just trying to leave some residual sugar to help play with the balance of that beer. I had a friend who stopped brewing. He actually just gave up beer making, and he had like this sour carboy. I'm like, oh, I'll take that. I'll incorporate that into something.
That had beer in it, or just had dregs? Like,
no, it was like carboy. 5 gallons of sour beer in it. And he just quit brewing. He still makes a ton of cider, Josh Landy.
Oh, yeah.
If you know Josh Landy, he makes a ton of cider, ton of mead, but he just gave up beer.
Okay.
And I was like, I'll take care of that. I'll give it a good home. So that's in there. The base beer is kind of, I don't know, I did a lot of research in this kind of land. This is where my Flanders type beer recipe ended up, where it's Maris Otter and Pilsner, a little bit of corn, Munich, Special B, wheat malt, aromatic, Cara Munich. Is it a traditional Flanders recipe? No, but it kind of lands me in the territory that I like to be at. Again, hot mash, short bit of time, so 158, 45 minutes to keep it nice and starchy, and provide some residual sugar and stuff for the bugs to chew on long term. The other thing about these, I use a lot of East Coast yeast. I don't know, you should hit them up for a plug.
Okay.
But I use a lot of East Coast yeast, and it's primarily Bug Farm and Bug County in these 3 beers. But this also has Roselaire. This had the Brett C. This had like clean yeast in it. This has like there's a party in there.
Yeah. And 80 grams of 2005 hops.
Yep. Which were probably no alpha, because I brewed this almost 10 years later. When did I brew this? 2014. So I brewed this in 2014. I blended it out in late 2016, what would have been like August. It was pretty deep in summer in 2016. Blended out 10 gallons of beer, left half of it as is, and then fruited the other half of it, and then added the Doppelbock again with the rationale of wanting some sweetness to it. But it went all the way down to 1002.
Yeah.
So
when you say you pull 2 or 3 gallons every so often, is that then just getting packaged in like cage and cork? And
Yep, either packaged in bottles or just in a keg. Because I have a 4-tap Keyser, and I have one that's almost always got a sour beer in it, or a Brett beer, or Brett Saison, or something like that. Yeah, and a lot of this fruit came out of my backyard. I had blueberry and big raspberry patch in my backyard, my old house in St. Paul. So I picked a bunch of the fruit from there, and it wasn't quite enough because I like to be generally 1 or 2 pounds per gallon for fruiting, and I was a little under that for this particular beer, so I just went to. Can I say Costco?
Yeah.
You just
You
did.
say anything, man.
I went,
editing table.
I went to a big box store with a really big shopping cart
Home Depot?
and got some frozen fruit at Home Depot.
Yeah.
And just kind of pureed it up and put it all in there and let it do its thing. So
Wow.
And then this guy, the dark knight over here,
yeah, so
dark sour with raspberry.
this is
this
the
took the gold.
this is the granddaddy. This is number 1. It is a probably Old Bruin type beer, maybe. And again, this is loosely inspired from those rare barrel recipes. They have a gold, a red, and a brown.
Oh wow.
And this is the brown.
Ooh, chocolate malt, DRC, the double roast crystal, and Perla Negra is what's giving it
Yeah, that's what you
darkness
get on that
and
color.
what kind of roasty chocolate.
Yeah, so you get like me. I think of this beer. I get like nice chocolate covered raspberries. You know, you get like that chocolate raspberry, and then it's it's not overly tart, but it's got a little bit of acid to let you know it's there.
Yeah, that tastes like tart chocolate. Like if Sweet Tart made a chocolate flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that a little bit. Sweet Tart chocolate chip cookies. No, not that.
No.
No, it doesn't taste like that. Much better.
So how long have you been doing wild beer in general? Like, is this a fairly new thing, or is this pretty standard throughout your brew calendar?
So, gosh, I've been brewing since 2009, and I think my 5th or 6th extract batch was a beer that I added Brett to. So just kind of dove right in with it. And I've always, like, even pre home brewing, you know, just my craft beer days, I was always big into like lambic style beers and Brett Saisons and that kind of thing. And 1, they're spendy beers to buy, and 2, the really good ones are really tough to come by. So just took the whole home brewer mentality of I could just make it in my basement.
Yeah.
So
What's the oldest thing you got in your basement at the moment? Is it the Solera, or is there something even?
oh, so you know what? I moved this summer, and I got all of my beer carboys like dealt with, blended out, packaged, everything. So I have no. The only thing I have in my basement fermenting right now is a couple of meads, and upstairs I have some kimchi. I made some kimchi this week because I got to keep fermenting stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And how do you handle the separate equipment with the sours and the
Oh,
vat
sure.
and the-
So I have. I don't necessarily dedicate carboys. My glass carboys, I'll just clean them really, really good. But I have a separate siphon, I have a separate funnel. I basically have like some sour only bits, bungs, airlocks, you know, and they're all marked with the biohazard symbol.
That's awesome.
Nice.
That's awesome.
And just so everything on the cold side, except for my glass carboys. The glass carboys, I feel really, really good with my cleaning
Right.
regimen. And then actually part of my brewing regimen is that I'll make a Helles or a Kolsch, just a little beer where there's really nothing to hide, and I'll make it in one of those carboys if I have any question about whether or not I got it clean.
Oh, really?
And yeah, so
That's one way to do it.
you know, I kind of have a nice little calibration beer. And then generally the other reason I'm not too concerned about my carboys is if I'm not brewing sour stuff, I usually just hop the living bejesus out of it.
And you
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that.
So they just, you know, they'll just beat down any residual bugs that might have hung around.
And how big a barrel is your Solera in? 5 gallon?
Yeah, so it's a 5 gallon. It started out as a wheat whiskey barrel from
Okay.
11 Wells, and I ran 3 or 4 clean beers through it. And then I was like, man, I don't know. I did my barley wine, I did my Riz, I did my wee heavy, I did like a big brown ale, and I was surprised that I just kept getting clean beer out of it. So it's like, all right, we're purposefully infecting this guy, and we're gonna.
What'd you infect it with that first time? Like dregs of something, or specifically a pitch?
Actually, just took Angry Turtle.
Angry turtles.
In the barrel, yeah. So I didn't actually add bugs to the barrel, but I just put beer that had already been infected
Oh, okay. I see.
with Rosalaire, East Coast, Bug County, Bug Farm.
It was in glass, and you were like, I'm just going to move it to this barrel now. Okay.
Yep.
And that's been going since 2014? Or?
No, so the barrel has been going on since 16, but the Solera project that I had was that 2-year Solera project was all just in a cargo. And now that barrel that I have, I'm just starting to get beers out of, and then those will be blended, fruited, so on and so forth.
If you go back to that gold now, you can get the apricot
I want some ice cream.
to pour this over.
Yeah, that'd be good. Or a waffle.
So let me raise a glass of dark sour to Chuck. Chuck, for bringing the beers, for sharing his knowledge and info. We're going to put his information on the website at chopandbrew.com, kind of recipes, some other resources that he's a fan of. Brewing Network, as he mentioned, he name dropped Milk the Funk Wiki, which is obviously a great resource.
Yeah, great resources there.
For all this kind of stuff. Make your own wild ales, start your own Solera project, and let us know how it goes. What are you going to do, Bryon? What's your first Solera project beer?
What's already in the carboy?
That's
Got that funky one going.
that funky shit?
Yeah, I was supposed to check it yesterday,
Get funky.
but I was
That would be
sick.
sick. Yeah, we don't need those bugs. Don't put those bugs in there. You don't want those bugs.
All right, y'all. Cheers, man. Chop for chop.
Brew for brew.
Funk for funk.
In your mouth.
Wild for wild. Woo.
Wild and funky.
Oh, this thing's almost electric. It's.
Oh, yeah.
Do that again.
Bzz, ah, bzz, ah.
I think the apricot might be my favorite.
It's hard to say.
No, he's sick. He touched that. So
Touched it. I licked
Actually-
my hands and rubbed all on that glass. You're
I'm going on.
sick.
I'm going on 2 years of not being sick teaching middle schoolers. I'll play my chances.
2 years.
Really?
Maybe it was the people that were kissing your wife that got sick.
Oh.
That got her sick.
No.
Oh, that got sick. That took the grenade.
The squirrel, it took a little while for the squirrel to get up to speed in there, Chip.
That took the grenade for us. All right, it's time for us to eat some pulled pork and drink some more wild ales. Thanks to Chuck for bringing his wild ales. We're going to put this information on the website. On it, there's some resources. Obviously, you mentioned rare beer. Blah. That was a corny ass-
Rewind.
Yeah.
And
Cut.